As an academy owner, you work hard to build trust with your students, their parents, and your community. But trust isn't something you claim, it's something you prove and earn. That's where Academy Safe comes in. We help academies like yours stand out with verified safety standards. Background checks for all staff, U.S. Center for Safe Sports certification, concussion training, defibrillators on site, CPR, first aid, and AED certification, security cameras, rank and lineage checks, and verification of business insurance. Join the trusted martial arts registry that's redefining safety throughout North America. Lead by example. Show parents you're accredited with Academy Safe.
Hello, and welcome to the My Empty Hands podcast. I am Reggie Darden, and I am excited to have Mr. Brian Duffy with me today. We're just gonna, talk some Kempo and whatever else we happen to come across here. So, just to kind of jump into my background, I started Kempo in the mid '90s. After seeing the Jeff Speakman's Perfect Weapon, I instantly fell in love with Kempo and decided I needed to do that. So started training at a school that was essentially a Tracy's karate school, and did that. This was in San Diego.
Okay.
And so I trained there, got about halfway to my third brown when I left for the Army in '96. And while I was in, I took a little bit of Taekwondo, a little bit of Hapkido, and did a little bit of boxing. After I got out, I still wanted to train, but couldn't find a school that I liked. I had moved. I didn't move back to San Diego. I moved to Texas, and just kind of did my own thing for a while, and until I found my other love, that is the art of capoeira, and so I've been doing that, coming up on 17 years now. And so while I was kind of going through some of my my junk that I've been hauling around for forever, I found my old training manual from my first school, and that reinvigorated my love for Kempo, and decided to seek out another school, and found one about, I guess it was about two or 3 years now ago, at American Kempo School, and I've been.
What school is it?
My instructor's name is Bill Piper. I think
okay,
you
I know Bill.
him.
Yeah.
So I've been with Mr. Piper. Got my green belts about coming up on a month now. I got my green belts about a month ago, and just enjoying the training, and
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, just loving the good Kempo stuff, and just can't wait to learn more. And now that I have the podcast here, I just love hearing the stories of people's journeys, and just getting all the different perspectives of Kempo, and
Oh, there's plenty of people with good stories out there.
yeah. I've heard quite a few already, and I'm really looking forward to those that I've got coming up. So I've been really happy with the response that I've been getting to this, and everybody's been willing to be on. So I like it. So, if you could go ahead and fill me in and our listeners on, how did Kempo find you, and where did it all start for you? And
Well, it all started for me the summer after I graduated from high school. And I was actually in high school. I was very small. When I graduated from high school, I weighed about 120 pounds. I was 5'4". I had a very late
mm,
growing spurt, and I was driving down to register for college in San Antonio, where I grew up, and I passed a karate school on the way. So I went down and I registered for classes at the junior college. And when I finished registering, I stopped into the karate school and I asked about lessons there. What's interesting is the fact that my knowledge of martial arts, let me put it that way, or familiarity with martial arts prior to that had been the fact that I lived in Japan when I was age 2 to 4. I'm a military brat. My dad was stationed in Japan. I was too young to do anything, but my older brother, who's 7 years older than I am, he took judo while he was there. So my familiarity with martial arts was through judo, right? The sign that I passed said karate judo on it. So
mm,
I pulled in and I asked about, judo lessons. How much is it, for judo lessons? And the receptionist said, are you interested in self-defense? I said, yes, I am. Well, we have an introductory course. It's 5 lessons and it's, $15. And I said, okay. And I signed up for it. And it was a Kempo school. Is what it was, and so they started showing me the stuff, and I was interested in self-defense. It looked good. I never asked about judo again. They never said anything about judo again, and
did
that's
they
how I ended
actually
up in a Kempo school.
did they
So
actually
it was
teach
just
judo at the school, or was it just the
it was a
name
Traco
recognition?
school at the time. Okay, Traco was a Tracy Connors partnership. Tom Connors was a guy out of Arizona, and he was actually a uh, Arthur Murray dance studio guy, right? And he basically took the Arthur Murray dance studio sales and lesson approach and applied it to martial arts. I mean, movement is movement, right? So that was one of the first uh, business models for the karate industry. The karate industry was very young when I started. I started in 1970, and um, there were just beginning. There were a lot of the Bruce Lee movies were coming out, and the kung fu TV show was coming out. So there was a lot of interest, in the martial arts. But as far as an actual business model, it was still, pretty new. And so anyway, Traco School was where I first started. And I stayed at that school. Stayed at that school for several years, but in 1972, the schools got into tax trouble, and uh, they were leaving. The guys that were owning those schools were leaving, and my instructor Gary Swan, who had been in Phoenix prior to that, came in and bought the studio I was at, and that's when I became his student. I was a purple belt at the time. And I studied with Mr. Swan and his organization. He was he was the vice president of the National Chinese Kempo Karate Association, the NCKKA. The head of that association was Steve LeBounty. NCKKA was one of the first organizations to split from Mr. Parker's IKKA, the big organization, but they did so with Mr. Parker's blessing. Mr. Swan and Mr. LeBounty and Mr. Swan's first black belt, Cliff McKinney, met with Mr. Parker, and Mr. LeBounty was looking for, the IKKA was a huge organization worldwide, but Mr. LeBounty was looking for more of a close knit, family oriented group, right, to work with, and And so they presented the idea to Mr. Parker and explained to him that they weren't, that they weren't trying to distance themselves from him. They just wanted their own group, and that they would continue to, support him and support his organization in any way they could. And Mr. Parker gave him the blessing, said, "Yeah, go ahead, do your thing. Let's see what happens." And in its heyday, the NCKK had schools in Northern California, schools in the Phoenix area, and schools in the Austin and San Antonio area. So it was a good sized little organization for quite some time. I stayed with Mr. Swan from purple belt through fourth black. I have a friend who was in that organization. His name was Dennis Knatzer, and he and I were brown belts together, and we got our black belts, a couple months apart from each other. And we were actually, while we were still in the NCKK, we got promoted to second black on the same day. So our training, kind of very equivalent, right? So Dennis left the NCKKA several years before I did to study directly under Mr. Parker, Ed Parker. And so he was a great resource for me in the fact that, he knew the NCKK curriculum, but he'd also learned the IKK curriculum. And he would, come and visit, or I'd go out and see him, and he'd say, "Okay, well, here's what the NCKK is, how they do this technique, and this is why, and this is what it's evolved into, and this is why." And I started seeing that, that there were some updates to the system that I had not, seen, and I got interested in that. So I started bringing Mr. Parker out to Texas to do seminars at my school, and I was bringing him out about twice a year. And this was in the mid 80s, 84, 85, 86, something like that. And I was liking what I was seeing from him, and I was going to other of his top people's seminars as well. I went to a series of seminars under Huck Planis, who was up in the Dallas area. He was doing a series of seminars on the forums, and so I went up there and participated in those seminars. And then another group brought in Mike Pick, and I went up and participated in his seminar. And then of course in the NCKK, one of our senior advisors was Tom Kelly, who was one of Mr. LeBounty's students originally, but then had become a student of Ed Parker. So I was exposed to the IK curriculum through Tom Kelly as well. And so I was seeing all these things, and I was really liking what the systematic approach that Mr. Parker had more than anything else, and the emphasis on the concepts and principles. And but I was very loyal to Mr. Swan. He had taken me, like I said, from purple belt all the way through fourth black. And Mr. Swan, I have to mention, is one of the best martial artists that I personally know. And I've taught all over the United States and in Europe and in South America as well. And I see people all the time. And Mr. Swan is an excellent martial artist. I did not lack anything from his instruction. He was a wonderful role model, and I had a very strong loyalty to him. So it was, kind of a difficult decision in the fact that, I had this loyalty to him, but I was seeing another side of the art that I wanted to explore as well. And the thing that cinched it for me was when Mr. Parker indicated to me that if I came into his organization, that he would take me as a personal student. And anytime you have a chance to study with the founder of a system, then, you need to take that opportunity. And so I talked to Mr. Swan and told him, what I was interested in doing. And he understood. He had seen me bringing Mr. Parker in all those years. And so he said he'd kind of been seeing me go that way. And he said, but he sat me down and he said, here's something you got to consider, Brian. He said, you live in Texas, and he lives in California. How much time do you really think that you're going to get with him? And I told him, I said, I don't know, but I'm going to get what I can. I'm going to get all that I can, And so he gave me his blessing, and he's continued to be a friend and a mentor, and he comes and teaches at my training camp every year, and he's still a great role model. I mean, my students are amazed when they see him out there on the mat. He's going to be 80 this next month, and he
Ooh,
was teaching
wow.
on my mat last, a couple weeks ago. And so, he's a great martial artist, great role model. But to have the opportunity to study with the founder of the system, I took it, and I became a personal student of Ed Parker, and for the last few years that he was alive.
That's excellent.
Can't hear
To
you.
go. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, no, that's huge. To kind of go back to when you first started your training, was it kind of love it at first sight with Kempo, or did it take a little bit of?
Yeah, like I say, they started showing me, the some stuff, and I was looking for self defense, and I, Kempo's a self defense system, self defense oriented, and so yeah, I liked it a lot. I've cross trained in other systems since then. After I got my black in Kempo, I cross trained in Taekwondo and got a black in Taekwondo Muay Kwan. Mr. Swan, as well as doing Kempo. He studied Hungar Kung Fu from Buksam Kong for about 12 to 14 years. So, we picked up some, while I was in the NCKK, picked up some, Chinese weapons forms as well,
Oh, very
that
nice.
he would teach to the black belts. I cross-trained with some Okinawan guys here, would go to their seminars and stuff. And the thing that I found that I really like about Kempo is that it's a great base system. It has allowed me to feel very comfortable going into and did some Tai Chi as well, going into very
Mhm.
fluid systems like Tai Chi because of the circular movements. It also has been very easy to go into the very linear hard style systems like Taekwondo and some of the Okinawan stuff, right? Because it's got the straight line movements as well. So as far as I'm concerned, Kempo, I like exploring other arts and seeing what they have to offer. Done a little bit of uh, Filipino stick work as well. But as far as a base system, Kempo to me is it works for me. I'll put it that way. Other everybody has to find what works for them, and Kempo works for me, and I'm happy with it.
Mhm. No, I agree wholeheartedly there. I've always said that, yeah, Kempo makes a great base and connects well with other systems. And uh, I brought it up with other guests, but used to watch the Panther production videos
Right?
back in the day, and was watching one with David German, and he was combining jujitsu with
Yeah,
Kempo,
yeah.
and
I
it's
think he
just,
called his Thai Kempo or something like that.
yeah, Thai
Yeah, yeah,
Thai system, yeah. And one of the ones that really stuck out to me was he was adding wrist locks and arm bars to flashing wings, and just that one just really always kind of stuck out to me. And uh,
I mean, the if you look at Matosi's book, and Mr. Parker had instructor was William Chow. He had a couple of different influences. Mr. Chow, Chinese gentleman, had a Chinese family-based art that was passed down through him through generations, but he cross-trained as well with James Matosi, who had the hardstyle Koshiru Kempo system. And Mr. Parker credited Mr. Chow with the blending of the linear from the Koshiru with the circular from his family system, which characterizes what we actually do today. But Matosi's book, if you ever get a copy of it, is called Kempo Jitsu. So I mean, there's a lot of in true Kempo, there's a lot of jujitsu stuff, and if you look at our techniques, right, there's a number of different things that we do. If you look at the technique, crossing talon, you're using an arm bar right there, okay,
mhm,
and there's various different iterations of that arm bar in different techniques. Crossing talons, you're going down and pulling up, right? Lone kimono, you're striking up and pulling down, right? You do snapping twig, you're striking across, right? So they're all attacking the same joint. all by pushing the wrist one way and the back of the joint the other way. But there's a arm bar in there. You look at spiraling twig ends up with an outside wrist lock, right? And so there's a number of different, if you look for them, there's a number of different joint locks already found within the system, but taking them out of the techniques and looking at them by themselves as opposed to just in the technique is very advantageous for the student to do as well. So that, the thing, one of the problems with, Kempo techniques is the fact that the student gets locked into just this particular sequence, and using what's found in the technique only in that sequence. And, the idea that I try to stress to my students is what's called positional relationship, right? Looking at every step of a technique, your position relative to your opponent's position, right? And seeing if you find similarities in other techniques. If you find a similar spot where, sorry, your position and your opponent's position are the same, I call that a graph point. Excuse me. Because at that point in time, when you get to that position, you've got two different options you can go to. You can finish off the sequence, found in one technique or found in another technique. And then for every step, it's the same way. You have options. It depends upon what your opponent gives you. Every time he attacks you, there's some sort of vulnerability that he's going to give you. Your job is to identify that vulnerability, right? Take advantage of it. Grapplers do that great. I mean, in grappling, although they do have certain, sequences that they work on, when a grappler's, working with somebody, once they hit this move, they know this guy can go this way or this way, right? And whatever the guy chooses, they know they have options. If he does this, I can go and do this. If he does this, I can go and do this. And they just follow and they just flow and go from one to the other. The problem with Kempo is people get caught in the sequence that they're taught originally, right? A gentleman named Marty Zaninovich, they call him Professor Z. He's a ninth degree under Huck Planus. He originally started out in the NCKK. I'd known him for years. He was under Mr. LeBounty. He started studying with Huck Planus at the same time, and then eventually shifted directly to Huck. And he's a great martial artist. And if you ever have a chance to go to one of his seminars, don't miss out. You won't be disappointed. But he says, he has a term that he calls. He says people are chasing the technique. Right. Mm-hmm. Trying to make that sequence work no matter what changes in the sequence. They're still trying to make that sequence work, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no, it's more about the, they're looking at the how instead of the why and the mechanics of it. When I started at the school that I'm at now, I gained so much more insight into why we're doing the things that we're doing and the mechanics and the blueprints of it. Not to knock my original school. It was great training, but we focused more on doing kind of the techniques as written more so
right.
than thinking about how why these techniques work the way that they do. And we didn't work on the principles and the terminology and things like that. So I just didn't have that deeper understanding. And I say that I learned so much more by the time I was an orange belt that at my current school than I did almost making it to brown previously. So getting those other pieces of it really changes the outlook and the outcome of the training. So
yeah,
been real fortunate for that.
Well, different people want different things from their training as well. I had a student uh, who had done Kempo for for earlier at different points in his life. He'd done some Kempo. And he came to me and he said, I want to get to this rank or that rank. And I'm saying, okay, that's fine. And so when I'm teaching him, I'm going into the whys and the and and different, going not just scratching the surface, but going deeper into what's going on. And finally, he just goes, "I just want to learn the techniques. I just want you to test me. I just want to get the rank, and that's all I want." He goes, "A lesson with you is like a seminar, and that's great, but just show me the stuff and test me, and so different
Yeah.
people want different things, so."
Yeah, it's I can understand that. It's unfortunate that there are people that are just chasing rank and chasing the status. So earlier today I was speaking with Lee Wedlake, and we talked a little bit about how it's unfortunate that we should be more focused on enhancing and spreading the art versus how much red we can get on our belt.
Right,
And you know
right.
it's really sad that there's the fighting and the infighting and the politics and whatnot, just so people can say, oh well, I train this or I train that. And it's like that's so much energy and time wasted on that, when we could be getting the art
And
out there.
again,
And
people have different agendas. People have different reasons for what they're doing. Uh, the old myth about the martial artist who the old Chinese monk who is not only skilled but also very uh, knowledgeable and very moral and things like that. You know that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you can get somebody who gets real skilled in the physical side of it, but they're still as unmoral and unprincipled as they can be.
Mhm.
And it's just, I mean, there's so many people that teach martial arts and practice martial arts. You catch all kinds, so you have to find, as a student, you have to find the, uh, the person, the instructor, the studio, the group that you can more closely relate to, what you're looking for. You know,
Mhm.
you, you can find anything you want in the martial arts, good, bad, or indifferent.
Exactly. So how was it, when you started training with Ed Parker? What was the like? How was training, directly under him, compared to your previous instructors? Can you maybe
Well,
talk about kind
uh,
of how
when
it was
I
different?
yeah,
Or
when I started with Mr. Parker, I was interested more in, he had developed the this vocabulary, right? I mean, of all the different concepts and principles. And so, I was wanting to have a better understanding of these concepts and principles and make sure that, I would be applying those concepts and principles in what I was doing. So a lot of it had to do with, me talking to him and discussing, okay, in this technique. I remember, here's an example. I remember, early on, I was trying to really get the definition, or not the definition, but the difference between, right, the concept of backup mass and proper body alignment. And so I kept saying to him, well, so what you're telling me then is that, you know, uh, proper body alignment is backup mass, right? And I can remember him saying this to me. He says, proper body alignment puts backup mass into perspective. And so I thought about it for a second and I said, so what you're saying then is proper body alignment is backup mass, And he goes, no, proper body alignment puts backup mass into perspective. I'm thinking, I said, so that means that proper body alignment is backup mass. And he kind of goes, proper body alignment. He said it again very slowly and not mean or anything, but just proper body alignment puts backup mass into perspective. And I said to myself, okay, this gentleman has obviously put this in the simplest terms he possibly can for you, and you're still not getting it. Now, you can either keep asking him the same question and just keep looking more and more stupid, or you can just move on and we'll come back to this at some point in time. So I moved on and we started talking about something else. And then a couple weeks later, I'm teaching an introductory course. I'm teaching this guy how to punch, and I'm showing him how to keep the line from the elbow through the forearm, out the knuckles, into the target, straight line, so that you have the backup mass of the arm directly behind, right, the punching.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see this bubble over my head with Mr. Parker saying, proper body alignment puts backup mass into perspective. So it was something that I had always, shown my students, but I didn't have the vocabulary to, of principles to explain exactly what I was talking about, so that was something. And so it was things like that. And then he would show me, he'd say, okay, do a technique. Right. And do this technique on me. You never wanted to hear that. Do it to me because he's about to smack you. So we were doing, cross destruction. Okay. Cross destruction, which is, against the two-handed choke from the rear. And the way I had learned it was to peel the arms off and to pull the arms down across your shoulders to attack the elbows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that to him, and he raises up, and as he raises up, he knees me in the coccyx, right?
Mm.
He goes, "You're causing this, reaction in your opponent, right? To do that to you. You don't want to do it that way, right?" And he said, and then he showed me, turn your head, and as you come underneath, snap the thumb across the back of your neck, right? And that way, you're not going to go ahead and put yourself in a position like that. Same way when I first learned gift of death, or the gift. We used to do it where you would turn the hand down and you would strike up underneath the elbow this way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, he raised, it causes the opponent to come up. He came up, kneed me in the groin. He said, "You're causing these reactions in your opponent, right? Whether he wants to or not." Remember, there's two ways of getting hit, right? Either on purpose or not on purpose, right? Intentional or unintentional strikes. Well, you're causing an unintentional strike at the very least. And so he showed me how to do it the other way, turn the hand the other way, right? Come across, cancel his height and his width. And, so things like that, refinements and techniques was a lot of what it was. And a number, just a number of, there was one technique, defying the storm.
Mm-hmm.
And in defying the storm, the way I learned it was step in and to hit the bicep, hit the wrist, grab the wrist, and then you hook the shoulder and you pulled down and in. And so I did that to Mr. Parker, and I don't know how, but he whipped his foot up and hit me, right, upside the head, right. And he said, "No, that's not going to work." And he says, you gotta come and you gotta control the elbow. You gotta anchor, gotta control his elbow with your, after you hit the bicep, control the elbow, right? Step back, keep your anchor's elbow and pulling straight down. You don't want to turn him like that, so various different things like that, that, things that I'd already learned the particular techniques, but then he'd take and break it apart and say, okay, this is what you're going, this is what's going wrong. This is why, this is what you're doing. Right. And just refining a lot of stuff.
Hmm. Did you feel like you were relearning the techniques? Like, um, was did you feel when you were training with Mr. Parker that you were kind of relearning the system, or was he just
Well,
kind
like
of
I was refining the
cleaning it
system.
up?
Yeah. Refining the system is what I was doing,
Okay.
uh, not really relearning a system, but, just getting more information, more specific information and showing, what could possibly be going wrong with the way that I was doing things at the time. Um, there was one time in '89 we had a belt test at my studio, and I had one guy going up for third, and the guy go up for second. I had 3 or 4 guys going up for first, and then some Browns as well. And Mr. Parker came, and he always had notes, right? He always would taking tests. He's writing notes down, right? And so at the end of the test, uh, you know, he gets up and he talks. And he tells everybody, said, "This is," and he bring people up and said, "Okay, here's what I saw, and then this is why you don't want to do that. This is what you wanted." And so he would give a detailed explanation as to what he was looking for and why. Uh, at that test, I had a student who was living in Plano, and he was a police officer on the SWAT team, and he was on call that weekend and could not could not leave the Dallas Fort Worth area because he was on call at SWAT team. So he missed a test. And I told him, I said, "Well, don't worry, Brant." I said, I'm going to go out and see Mr. Parker in a few weeks, and you can come out there with me and we can just, have him test you while you're out there. And he said, "Okay." So a few weeks go by and I let Mr. Parker know what I wanted to do. He said, "Sure, bring him on out." And we fly out. Mr. Parker drove to the airport, picked us up, took us over to get something to eat. And then we went to his house, and he gives us the big tour, right? You walk in his front door, and there's an Elvis cape in a glass case, right there as you walk in, and the belt underneath it as well. And then in a couple of small cases next to it, there's a big Elvis ring with, EP and diamonds, right?
Hmm.
And then a big set of Elvis glasses with EP and diamonds right there. And Mr. Parker said, he always used to give me these things. He said, "Hey, it's got your initials on it," right? Elvis Presley, Ed Parker. So he'd give him these EP things. And so he showed us that stuff. And then he showed us, the Cadillac in his garage that Elvis had given him, gave us the big tour. And so we're talking, and it's starting to get later, and I'm thinking, okay, we need to go ahead and get this test done. And I'm thinking that we're going to go down to the studio, and run the test. And I said, "Remember, Mr. Parker, we have to, we have to test Brant." He said, "Oh, that's right. Tell him to dress out." Right. So I go get Brant. I said, "Put your uniform on, Brant." So he puts his uniform on, and we're in Mr. Parker's living room, sitting on his big white couch, and he goes, "Run him through his stuff." And I start calling stuff out. Brant's out there. Brant was good fighter, real strong, good basics, nice technique. I mean, I was not worried about him, not doing good in the test at all. And so, I'm calling out this stuff, and Mr. Parker's watching him. And the thing that Mr. Parker liked about my students is that he always used to say, "Your students have good basics, have good, strong basics," because we drill basics all the time, the, uh, just, good stances, good, strong punches, good, strong blocks, and he loved that. He loved seeing good, strong technique. And so when the test is over, he gives us a lesson on Form 4, because he goes through, he'd been making notes, and he goes through, and says, "Okay, on this part of the 4, you guys are doing this, and here's the ways, here's what you need to do with it." Boom, boom, boom. And so we had a detailed lesson on the 4. It's finished, right? We kick him. He takes us up into his office, right? He reaches up and grabs a certificate, right? And back in those days, the way they made the IKK certificates is he had these hand rubbed letters that you would put on, right, in kind
Mm-hmm.
of an Oriental motif, and he line it up and set each letter and space it out properly, and then rub it on and make sure it looked good, right? So he hand letters Brant's name, hand letters the rank, and the IKK certificate had a black belt on the corner, and then he would take these little piece of red tape and he'd cut and put stripes for whatever the rank happened to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so filled it all out. He signs it as president, has me sign it, and vice president hands Brant uh, a hand lettered certificate right out of his
Yeah.
office that he
Very
watched him make
nice.
for him. It was a pretty neat little experience for the both of
Yeah.
us.
Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty epic. Very nice, very nice. So, so it's my understanding that I guess you're responsible for the 16 techniques per belt. Can you kind of talk about
Yeah,
how that all came
yeah,
about?
that's my restructure, and I came into the IKK, and in the Traco system, we had 32 techniques per chart. I was on the old 32 system. Then when we went to the NCKK had right around 24 techniques per belt, but not some might have been a couple shorter than 24. I remember there was one rank that had 28 techniques, but they were all right around that 20 to
Mm-hmm.
24 type. And then I get to the IKK and it was 24, but there was a lot of other stuff. In the NCKK, we had techniques, and we had the number of forms, and we had a couple of the sets. We had the kicking set that we
Mm-hmm.
would use, and we had a bastardized version of finger set. It was called poison hand set. It was something that someone had put a little fancy salutation at the beginning and an ending to it, but the bulk of it was finger set.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had basics, and then sorry, my throat's getting dry,
Oh, no
talking too
problem.
much. So, and we had basics, and that was about it. And then of course sparring and things like that. But when you got into when I got into the IKKA, you have well, in the NCKK we had the Kempo Creed, but that was it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have creeds and pledges, you have sayings, you have basics, you have freestyle techniques, right? You have forms, you have sets, you have self-defense techniques. From purple belt up, you have to make up your own form, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of stuff, right, in that system. And the yellow belt, uh, the yellow belt chart came after it was uh, dropped from the 32 down to the 24. The yellow belt chart was added as a separate chart before that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the yellow belt chart was designed for a couple of different reasons. One, it's a standalone self-defense system because it has a grab, a push, a punch, a kick, a hug and a hold, a lock and a choke, a weapon attack, right? So it could be taught as a standalone self-defense system. And it was also designed to be a rank that was attainable within the first few months so that the student, right, would feel some, satisfaction from being promoted,
Mm-hmm.
which aids in retention of keeping the student there, right? Which was good, yes. So I looked at this at the way that the system was set up, and I said, okay, so for yellow belt, we have this guy do 10 techniques, and then for the next rank, we have him do 2.5 times as much material to get to his next rank. And then the same way from that point on. And I just said, I think that there's too much of a front end load with the material. And I think it could be structured such that it's a more stair-stepped approach to get the same amount of material. So I started looking, all of the 24 technique, the even and the yellow belt are based upon the web of knowledge, right? The web of knowledge is the categories of attack based upon degree of difficulty of dealing with the attack, right? And the first one's a grab, then it goes push, then it goes punch, then it goes kick, then it goes hugs and holds, then it goes locks and chokes, then it goes weapons, then it goes combinations, then it goes multiple opponents. Okay, so they're all designed on the web of knowledge, and so I wanted my structure to be designed on the web of knowledge as well, because I'm not the only guy that had thought that it needed to be shortened. There were people before me, but what they did is they just took the techniques in the sequence that they were already in, and then they just started going ahead and do the first 16 techniques for orange, and that's orange. And then for purple, do the last 8 of orange and the first 8 for purple, and that's purple. Right. And then for blue, do the last, 16 techniques in blue, and then or for purple, and that makes you blue. And then and do it that way. They just, continue to work it that way. But when you do that, you're no longer following the web of knowledge. So I started analyzing the techniques, and I looked and I set up all my new charts based upon the web of knowledge as well. And I set them up on, there's, as you well know, there's techniques that we learn first, and then there's follow-up techniques that come after that. I'm sorry. And so I made sure that you would learn locked wing before you learn flight to freedom, right? And you would learn crashing wings and captured twigs before you learned crushing hammer, things like that. So I set those all up, and I set it up to where there would be 16 techniques for orange, purple, blue, and green. After that, you go to 20 techniques for third brown, second brown, first brown, and black. That, with the 10 techniques found in orange, gives you your 154 base techniques, which under the 24 technique curriculum comes at second brown. So I simply stretched out, right, the base techniques to first black. And then from there, second black, third black, fourth black, and fifth black are the same extensions that you do for first brown, first black, second black, and third black. All it did was extend the ranking structure for another couple belts. Didn't take anything out. Rearranged, like I say, a few of the techniques so they follow the web of knowledge as well. And then when I found, when I got it down to what I liked, I presented it to Mr. Parker. And, timing's everything in life. I presented this to Mr. Parker late 88, I believe. And if you look at the publication dates for the Infinite Insights, right, which is his 5 volumes that laid out the 24 technique curriculum to be the curriculum to be followed. Well, the first one came out in 82, and the last one came out in 87. So he just finished publishing the 5 volumes of the Infinite Insights. And I come along with this, hey, boss, I think we should do it this way plan, And so I presented it to him, and, he really didn't look at it that much. He just kind of glanced it over, and he said, okay, well, if this will help you, you can do it. I said, great. That's all I wanted, and it probably would have ended up just being me and my guys using that curriculum, except that about a year later, he contacted me and he said, we're working on a kids curriculum, and I want you to help with the development of this kids curriculum. I told him, I said, I've got a kids curriculum, but it works in concert with my 24 technique structure. I'm sorry, with my 16 technique structure. It does not work in concert with the 24 technique structure. And so this time he said, okay, send it back to me, include the children's curriculum. I want to take a look at it again. And so this time, because there was something that he was actively wanting to develop, he looked at it closer. He actually studied what I had done, and he looked it over. He got back with me. He said, I really like what you've done here. I said, this is very well put together. He said, the problem is the people who have been doing the 24 technique curriculum, right, are not going to want to change. And we're going to have, there's going to be resistance to any sort of change like that. He said, however, I plan on opening franchise schools again, and I want to use this, curriculum in my franchise schools. I said, sounds great to me, So unfortunately, he passed before it was sent out to the general public. But he always test drove things. He always, would get input from people who had been around him for a long time. So, and I've told this story before, I met John Sepulveda at Mr. Parker's funeral. I knew of John Sepulveda prior to that because one of my brown belts from here in Texas, he actually come to me from California as a brown belt at an offshoot school somewhere, and then studied with me through his browns, moved back to California, got his black under the NCKK there, but then saw me shifting to the IKKA. So he went to John Sepulveda's school and started studying with Mr. Sepulveda, right, before Mr. Parker died. So I knew of John Sepulveda through Daryl, my student. I also knew of him through Mr. LeBounty, who had, told me about him. But I never met him. So I met him at the funeral, and we talked a little bit, and we hit it off and decided to go ahead and interact with each other, right? And so he was going to come out to my school, do a seminar. I was going to go out to his school and, teach a little bit. And then he was going to come out to my camp after that. And so he came out to my school first. And, boy, I'm getting real bright, aren't I? Yeah, a little bit better. Okay. So he came out to my school first. It was in like June of 91 after Mr. Parker died. And when he came out, he gets to my office. He goes, "Hey, have you seen this?" And he lays down, right, an orange belt manual that's in the 16 technique structure. Yeah. I opened it up, looked at it. I said, "Yeah, I wrote it." He said, "You what?" I said, "Yeah, I wrote that." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" So I pull out all my files and I said, here's the stuff that I'd worked on. This is what I sent Mr. Parker, so I know he had sent it out to him. I know he had sent it out to my friend Dennis Knatzer to look at as well. I think he sent it out to Brian Hawkins, so there was a number of people that he had already distributed it to, but and he was set, I talked to his son, Edmund. He said, yeah, we were planning on rolling that thing out, in the spring. He went home for Christmas holidays, and that's when he passed. He said, the following spring, we're going to lay that program out. It's going to go out to everybody, and I think, I don't think he was planning on actually scrapping the 24 technique curriculum. I think he was probably just going to introduce it as a alternative curriculum as well that included a children's curriculum, because that's what they were looking for, so, but it's, what he said is true. And the fact that it has its admirers and its detractors, and has had for the whole 30 years since it's been out there, but, John Sepulveda has a pretty big organization. All his guys use it. Eddie Downey has the European Kempo Karate Association. All his guys use it. My guys use it. I have a group in Chile. We got 4 schools down in Chile, and I go down there, and a bunch of them are a bunch of people down there use it as well. They say, "Oh, you use our curriculum." I said, No, you use my curriculum.
Very nice. Well, Mr. Piper teaches using that curriculum, and I have to say that I am a fan of it. My original school, we had 40 techniques per belt.
Oh boy.
So yeah, so when I talk to my classmates, and it was like, man, like we got so much stuff we got to know, and it's like, um we only have 16 per belt. I had to do 40. So, granted though, we didn't do most of the sets and terminology
Yeah.
and stuff. So it kind of balances out, but still, I'm pretty thankful that I'm not doing 40 each belt. It didn't seem like
I'm
much in
going
the
to say this.
beginning, but
I'm going to say this, and I've mentioned it before, that the purpose of any curriculum is to effectively transfer the knowledge and the skill base to the student. And what I tell people is, if you can do that effectively using the 32 technique curriculum, use it. If you can do that effectively using the 24 technique curriculum, use it. For
Mhm,
me, what works best is the structure that I came up with, the 16, 20, 24. So,
mhm.
any curriculum that works for you, make use of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like it because you get more time to kind of marinate in the techniques and really get it down, uh,
Yeah,
instead of kind of you know actually learning it versus memorizing it. Um,
correct.
so so I'm a big fan. So thank you so much for for creating that. So thank you. So let's go ahead and get into our lightning round here, as we
Okay.
kind of head towards the close here. Um, so first question being, what is your? Do you have a favorite technique?
Do I have a favorite technique?
Yes, or a couple of favorites.
Yeah, there's a number of classic techniques that everybody
Hmm.
loves. I
Hmm.
mean, you look at Five Swords is one of
Yep.
everybody's favorites. Thunder
Five
Hammers
swords.
is one of everybody's
Yep.
favorites. Backbreakers are I mean,
Hmm.
there's a lot of 'em, there's a lot of 'em. Do I have a specific one? Not really.
I like it. I like it. It's good. Good answer. I think probably 75% of the guests I've had so far have said that. So that works for me. Do you have a favorite form and or set?
Um, I don't really have a favorite form. I'm thinking, I like short three, I like long four. The ones that I've done for, I learned long four in 1972, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've done something that long, so I know short three, but years before that. So when you've done
Mm-hmm.
something that long, it becomes something that you're very comfortable with. Um, but as far as having one specific favorite, yeah, no,
Gotcha.
each of them have a different feel,
Yeah.
and I like the lower belt form sometimes for that good, hard, powerful
Mm-hmm.
linear movement, because yeah, I'll tell you one thing, uh, and I've mentioned this in other interviews as well, that when I got a chance to train with Mr. Parker, and I would and my teachers knew I was leaving, Mr. LeBounty sat me down and talked to me as well. He said, "Brian, it's great that you're going to get a chance to train with the founder, and that you're going to see all these updates and all these new things that are going in to the system." He said, "But I want you to remember this: none of that stuff will work unless you can take a good, strong stance and punch somebody's lungs out." And it's
Mm-hmm.
true. I mean, so
Yeah.
when do a form like long one, and that sharp rotation into the neutral bow and that block, and then that pivot and that lock into that forward bow and that punch, you know, you, I like those things. Yeah, I like that nice hard feel to it, and then I like the fluid stuff that you find in short three as well, and in the four, and there's
Yeah. No, I agree. Even though I guess it's not not really a quote unquote Kempo form per se. Well, which we can get into all that at another time. But I've always liked book set, and
I used to compete with book set. Yeah. I
yeah,
used to compete with book set, and there's a Kempo Tiger and Crane. I
yeah, that
competed
was
with the
the
Tiger
other.
and Crane, for years, competing with the Tiger and Crane. I won the international karate championships 5 different years in the 90s, won my forms division, right, competing with the Tiger and Crane. Competed up on stage for Kata Grand Champion 5 different years, so yeah, love those
Yeah,
things.
that's just another one that I love, and it's always kind of funny to me. So when I started with Mr. Piper, and I was like, uh, I was a little disheartened that I had to start over as a white belt. I mean, I'm very thankful for it, but at the time I was a little bummed. But I was like, oh well, I can't wait till I work my way up, and then I can do book set again. And it's like, oh, like we don't do that one here. It's like, what? It's like my favorite one. You don't get to do like
Do you
so.
remember it?
Yeah. Well, actually, so when I started, kind of working my way up again, I've since changed my priorities, but I had this idea of going back and quote unquote finishing my training with my original instructor, and
Right.
getting my black belt. So I got in contact with him, uh, and some other folks, and got all the kind of the write-ups of the techniques and everything, and then I got videos from my original instructor on all the forms and stuff. So
Good.
like I
Good.
remembered quite a bit of it. I was actually surprised when I kind of started watching the videos and started doing them again, and also looking at YouTube and stuff. And um, actually, it was kind of funny. So my first guest was Jamie Seabrook, and
Yeah.
I watched a number. Actually, he was when I was looking on YouTube for book set. His was like one of him doing it was like one of the first videos I found of anyone doing it, and I was like, oh, like all right, like this. There's some things that look a little bit different, but that's mostly how I remember it.
Everybody's going to have their own personal interpretations of it,
Yeah,
but I mean,
yeah.
the general base move is the same.
hmm But once I got the videos from my original instructor, I started practicing it again, and I do it probably at least a couple of times every week. So,
Oh, good. All right.
so yeah, that and Mass Attack, and um, after I interviewed my original instructor, I told him we're going to have to try and figure out some way uh, for him to teach me Tiger and Crane, because that was one that I love, but I didn't get up to that point yet. So we're gonna have to figure that out. But
You know, the,
I'm
those
excited.
are fun forms. I mean, and I, like I say, they were competition forms for me.
Mhm.
But as far as like you say, when you're studying the curriculum, they don't really apply that much to the
Yeah,
actual American Kempo curriculum that we use.
yeah, exactly. Um, so, if there was anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, who would that be?
Give me some more time with Ed Parker.
Excellent. Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then the last question and the hardest of them all, in honor of Mr. Parker's love of jokes and humor, do you have a joke and or a humorous story to share with us?
Yeah. Okay. And I've told this story on interviews as well, but this is a funny story. I was, this is in the 70s, late 70s, and it's in the middle of the day, and I'm teaching a fight class, right? Sparring class with my guys, my daytime guys, and the phone rings. And so one of my guys, Ray, says, I'll get it, Sifu. And he goes in the office, and we keep fighting out there. And a minute later, he comes in, and he's standing at the edge of the mat. He's got this funny look on his face. And what's up, Ray? He goes, there's this guy on the phone who says he's Ed Parker. I said, okay, I'll take it. right? So I go in, so there's Brian Duffy. Can I help you? And I'd spoken to Mr. Parker before. He goes, "Hey, Brian, this is Ed Parker. I'm here." And he was there with the Elvis show. Elvis was playing in Austin, and he'd come in, for the show. And he said, "I'm in town with the Elvis show, and when I'm here, I always like to call and check on the guys and see how's everybody's doing." That's great. Would you like to come down to the studio? He goes, "No, we're not gonna have time to do that, but uh, but just." And we spoke for a little bit, and then he said, "Okay, well, you have a good day." And I said, "Thanks for calling, Mr. Parker." And so I go back into the training area, and Ray stops. And he kind of looks at me. He goes, "Was that guy really Ed Parker?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He says, "Because I told him, if you're Ed Parker, then I'm Bruce Lee." So, so years later, about that was late 70s, mid 80s, when I started bringing Mr. Parker back in. Ray was back working with me again. He's one of my brown belts at that point in time. And so when I first brought Mr. Parker in, I said, "Mr. Parker, I want to introduce you to one of my students. I spoke on the phone with him. This is Bruce Lee." And he got a kick out of that.
I like that. That is so good. I like that. Well, yeah, no, I thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and tell me about your stories, and definitely have to have you on again to share more of your great knowledge and experience.
I'll be happy to. Be happy to. And thanks for having me. I appreciate talking about Kempo any chance I get.
Awesome. So our last thing here is this is your time for shameless self promotion. So if there's anything else you want to bring up before we close out here, this is your time to do so.
I have a organization, American Kempo Federation, but it's a pretty small organization. It's just me and my guys. And I did pick up a student, Jose from Chile, and we have, like I say, 4 clubs in Chile now. So I go down there every so often as well. But my personal group here in town, I don't really have a commercial studio. Haven't had a commercial studio in quite some time. It's just my old guys and me, and we're still doing it and still training. And the building that we're working out of doesn't even have a sign on the front of it. If somebody contacts me and wants to train with me, then I have to send them text them a picture of the building so they know where to go. So I don't have any real promotions to do. If anybody wants to contact me, they can contact me through, Duffy at akfkempo.org, or they can call. I have a studio number still. It's 512-444-9889, and they can call up and we'll talk, find out if they want to come in and work out a little bit.
All right. Well, excellent. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you again so much for your time, and can't wait for the listeners to be able to hear this. And I will be in touch soon to let you know when this is coming out. And just thank you again for your time.
All right. It was a pleasure talking to you, Reggie.
All right. Same here. Thank you. You have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.